All right. We did get some other questions about coronavirus related stuff that I thought were interesting. So guys, if you watch YouTube or Twitter, I do put out a call for questions every Tuesday in the afternoon, so you guys can submit questions in advance. This one is from Florida Lee. Will we look back at our lockdown reactions to the virus and think it was wise, ridiculous, or downright destructive? Let's psychic that one, Joshua.
Oh, that's a really good question.
I know.
Smart person.
Florida Lee. Thank you, Florida Lee.
So, yeah, how will we look at it in the future, right? Oops.
Yeah, well, we look back at this lockdown and say it was good, it was wise, it was ridiculous, or downright destructive.
And tell me when to stop shuffling on that.
Stop.
Okay. How will we look at it as a society? Interesting. I think that with the 5 of discs, I think that we'll sort of perceive all of ourselves as not weaker, just almost like it's going to look as if all of us were battling some kind of sickness. Do you know what I mean? Like you're going to be perceiving this in the future as everybody's sick when that's not the case. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also this sense of just being like downtrodden. Like think of the depression. Mm-hmm. I think that's really the big thing that people are going to look at when we look back on this, that, it's just hard times and really there being a lot of issues dealing with like self-worth in regard to this. A lot of the things that we use to increase our sense of self-worth have been taken away. Like if we're not making money or as much money, like that's going to have a hit to our self-esteem. If a lot of people gain energy, like extroverts, through their interpersonal communications and being social, that's going to, think of it. If you're an extrovert, you get your energy from other people.
Right.
So I think that, there's going to be a look at that. People are going to think that we've been prudent and really going toward a better goal. So I do believe that through this, there is going to be health changes that are going to be really very good for all of Americans. So there's going to be something that winds up changing through this that almost makes it okay. I think maybe it's universal health care. I don't know. But something is going to be, it's part of like the bigger plan in terms of what America stands for. So I think healthcare is going to be something that becomes much easier for many people. So maybe it's a matter of when we need a vaccine, or maybe somebody needs to get medication for coronavirus. Maybe it'll be highly affordable, and that would require a whole reboot to the system.
Okay. Well, fair enough. And we actually had another question about depression, too, that I thought was really, really interesting. I was going to save it till later, but now it seems a perfect time. This is from Sarah. So thank you, Sarah, for submitting it. She says, I know this is a weird question, but can you talk more about how this psychic ability helps with depression or some other mental illnesses? Personally, I think depression in some cases is caused by a bunch of negative, repetitive thoughts that a person cannot get them out of their head because of what happened in the past. Therefore, I'm just curious if Joshua or other psychics has ever been able to help people with these problems.
Yeah, thank you. Her name's Sarah?
Yeah.
Is with an H or without an H?
With an H.
Good. Okay. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Carolyn, we really should have done something. We still can, but it is Mental Health Awareness Month, so it's really good that we're talking about this. I think that you're right. I agree with you, Sarah, that it's about the thoughts that don't feel good that make you feel bad. I think that in terms of being psychic, it's a matter of we have all of these different parallel realities that talk about the future, right? So when we're doing card readings and we're saying, okay, who's going to be president? There's like all of these different, think of them as shelves, right? And it's like all of these different possibilities. And the cards are going to tell you like what we're leaning toward, like what shelf we're going to land on, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So in terms of being psychic, to combat depression, it would be a matter of choosing the parallel reality, quite simply, in which you are not depressed. So as Colin and I always talk about, you're making up who it is that you are every moment. Like you might think that you're consistent, but really every moment we're deciding who it is that we are. So the problem I find with mental health is the labeling. If I assert to everybody, I'm depressed, I need help, I have PSTD, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What you're doing is you're perpetuating that. So psychically, it's really about tapping into feeling all of the different possibilities and saying if there is a reality that you can imagine, then it must exist, because you can't imagine non-existence. So if you can fathom a reality in which you're not depressed and allow yourself to tap into it, to tune into it, then that's how you would best be able to use your psychic abilities to combat depression. Just tuning into the you, because you have all of these probable selves. There's a you that exists that is not depressed. Well, why not tap into that and then practice that vibration? And certainly don't assert anything you do not want to be true.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that meditation is a perfect opportunity to do this. This is why, like, I used to have my old friends in my old life. I mean, I would have conversations with them constantly because they actually like internalized depression as part of who they were. Like, I'm depressed. I have anxiety. It's just the way I am. And I would always say to them, well, why don't you just try meditation? Why don't you just try it just for 5 minutes? Because I know it can really help. And it might be hard to do it first, but you can learn how to do it. And overall, and I mean, we're not giving out medical advice, but I think that if you can use meditation or visualization to help control things like depression and anxiety, it's much more preferable to being on medication for the entirety of your life, from my perspective.
Yes, absolutely. But I do think, I do know some people that, they were very much in your boat, in the sense of, I shouldn't need a drug to do this or that. But they do find that it does help.
Don't misunderstand. Like, I'm not opposed to medication for like a short term, as like a short, I just don't think like, I personally, I don't see it as like a long-term solution if you can do other things that make you feel good. And, I'm not opposed to it at all if people need it. But meditation for me is one of those things where it's such a good way to be able to actually visualize who you want to be and see yourself in that role. And I mean, I just say, I wish more people would actually take advantage of it. And everyone says it's so hard. I can't do it. I can't clear my mind. Well, it takes practice, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't meditate. You meditate like every day, but you don't do it for very long. I do it for long periods of time. You don't do it for very long. Yeah.
So I don't have the stamina that you do for meditation. I get bored too easily. But another thing too is to realize that a lot of people, like, think of Picasso, right? A lot of people who are artists, they feel so intently that what they do is they create art and they show people all around the world, like, this is what being in love feels like. This is what hating somebody so much feels like, right? So their emotions are highly charged. And I think that a lot of people who have depression, they are also very, very artistic, and oftentimes they may not be expressing themselves. Think of Picasso, who was crazy talented and might even been considered crazy. So I think expressing yourself and allowing yourself to let yourself go is really helpful. I know, in working in LA, and obviously there are a lot of actors here, and the actors that I know, if they are not on set, if they're not in work, they get pretty nuts. And I think that, it's because they're so talented that they need that outlet. And even if we're not in LA, why wouldn't that mean that somebody in another part of the world is the same way, that if they're not expressing themselves, they get crazy or depressed or what have you? So express yourself.
And we're seeing that on Twitter with celebrities acting like crazy people because they are getting the attention that they're used to getting.
Yeah, they're not able to act out. Yeah.
All right, Matthew says this is too controversial. People talking. The show's called Nothing Remotely Controversial. We the truth in advertising, dude. Come on. Elizabeth says, if you take recos for decks, I use Dreams of Gaia. It's unique to other decks I have.
Dreams of Gaia. Okay, thank you.
All right.
I try to use other decks. I really do.
And Raquel has a good question, and actually we've gotten this question quite a bit, so I think that we should do some psychiatry on this one. What is going to happen with the economy? Are jobs going to be coming back?
Let's see. Oops. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Dropped the whole deck.
Ooh, a good sign. So they say, like, what falls to the floor knocks at the door. And if that's the case, the Knight of Wands with the Ace of Pentacles, there's going to be a shit ton of new jobs opening up. But let's see what your cards have to say. Carlin, will you repeat the question, please?
What is going to happen with the economy and jobs?
And tell me when I should stop shuffling.
Stop.
This is good. So there's going to be a balance of things. Like, I think that with the Two of Discs, this is harmonious change. So the economy is definitely going to get better. With the Judgment card, I do feel there's going to be a lot of new jobs opening up. Maybe it's a matter of they're going to sign some kind of like bill in which maybe it's like online businesses or something that doesn't require that is good for social distancing, that is okay for social distancing. But there's going to be a new era in terms of finances. And with the Ace of Wands, our economy is going to be okay. But I feel that it's probably going to be a matter of there's going to be some kind of like judgment. This is the Judgment card that opens the door for a lot of jobs, a lot. And most likely just because, you know, say we get through this and when there's another virus that comes on, it's going to be a new era. But I think there's going to be a lot of money put toward new businesses, and it's going to be reminiscent of what we need today. It's going to be fine. It's just going to be brand new, though.
What? So is there? Do you see it like being like any sort of specific industry, or like are there skills that people should learn?
I mean,
to be in this new era?
Level, I would say definitely .com. I mean, everything is really very much technologically based. I think that, as you had said, it takes, people could be are already getting agoraphobic about this. It takes 21 days to establish a habit, right? Mm-hmm. The habit that we have of not going outside, not intermingling, etc. That is well past the 21-day mark, right? So I would say that the industry would be tech. It would be tech. It would be .coms. It would be the internet, stuff that you can do without being in front of somebody, literally.
So Raquel, that might be the answer to your question. If you want to get a job when things go back to normal, learn to code.
And things aren't going to go back to normal. Like, let's not shit ourselves. Things will never be back to normal. They just won't. There'll be a new normal, and that normal will be better.
Okay, I have a question. I'm going to super chat myself. Will masks be required in our new normal?
Well, when are we talking?
Will this year? Rest of 2020.
Okay, so like let's go to be specific. Let's say, will we be required to wear masks on December 31st, 2020?
Yes.
Tell me when to stop shuffling.
Stop.
I think some will. I think it's going to be extremely divided. So the Five of Discs comes up. I think that I think that some people that are what is the word? Immunocompromised.
Thank
you. I think that those people will. I also think, hypochondriacs will. I think that people who are just, those people, they might not even be hypochondriac, but they just, but then you have the Ace of Wands and then you have the Ace of Swords. So there's going to be some people who are going to absolutely, I don't think they'll be required. No.
But so for like normal people that are healthy and fine, they will not be required.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I think it's going to depend upon the establishment too. So, for instance, like on New Year's Eve, I would think that there's going to be some parties in which nobody's in masks, right? And I also think there's a way for people to get really creative about it, like maybe costumes and stuff like that. But no, I don't think that it's going to be required in the 31st. However, I do think that people are going to get to make the decisions about that for their establishment. Then that's going to create a bit of a divide. But no, I don't think it's going to be a mandate.
Wow, that's good news anyway.